We are live.
All right, and we're back after a break. As everybody knows, we missed a week. Here's what happened. It's Friday morning. I'm getting ready for the podcast. As you guys know, Academy Award nominee and BAFTA winner Ian McKellen calls me up. He says, I'm in Sandusky for their annual culture festival. Come on out, support me. We'll go out for a drink. And I was like, Ian, I would love to, but I have to do the podcast. Like, dozens of people are listening. And he was like, come on, my boy, don't be a drag. It's his go-to joke.
Right, absolutely.
So I'm there. Next thing I know, it's Tuesday afternoon. I wake up. I'm in between Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed the podcast. So I'm like, Ian, I gotta go, and he's like, come on, my boy, don't be a drag. It's like his only thing. But anyway, I got back. Craig was like, it's too late. I thought you were dead, but I'm here. I'm down, and I apologize, but we're ready to go. And we're gonna give you double the fun this time.
I didn't have the confidence to do it by myself, so I apologize to everybody on my part.
You know who didn't apologize? Ian McKellen, not one time.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, well, he doesn't. He doesn't have to. He's Gandalf.
All right, buckle up, folks.
Arcade.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Arcade Comics Podcast. I am your host, Craig Gray, and joined by, as always,
your co-host, Shane Pace.
So, it was unfortunate we couldn't make it last week, but this week we are, we'll figure out the title. It's something, it's either Happy Birthday, Leo,
Late Night Creep was my...
Late Night Creep, something. You guys will be surprised. You'll see it in the, the old Apple podcast app.
Depends on how good it goes. I mean, we might use if the show gets over and we're like, that wasn't a very good one, we'll just give it a lame title.
True. No point in wasting a good title.
No.
So we're going to start off, as always, with what we have been reading. And since we've missed a week, we got quite a bit to talk about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of forgot what I read last week. I was in a fugue state, but it'll come up as we go along.
I can tell you.
Wait, Birds of Prey was on there, wasn't it?
Yeah. No.
Oh,
last week was, I believe, Avengers Twilight, number 4, Dead X-Men, number 3, Napalm Lullaby, Helen of Windhorn.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Yeah. So, Helen of Windhorn is the new Tom King creator-owned series that he's doing with Bill Quievely that did the art on Woman of Tomorrow. It's a great first issue. It's setting up a big world. We'll see where it goes, though, because like Love Everlasting, you thought you knew what you were getting in for, and you were wrong. And as always, it's Tom King. But I'm excited. Here for the ride. But Napalm Lullaby, this one I was really excited about because it's Rick Remender back, and who's the artist on
Bengal.
And it's the art's next level. As always, like Remender gets the best artists, and they do their best work with Remender, I think. But I love the Sacrificers, but I was waiting for another one like Fear Agent or Black Science where he's doing his whole like world building from the ground up, and that's what Napalm Lullaby is.
It moves too.
Yes, it does. Oh,
it doesn't waste any time.
Great comic, great first issue. I'm very excited. Also, that title is rock and roll, man.
It is, absolutely.
Napalm Lullaby, and Danny Warren Johnson does one of the covers.
Yep. That was what attracted me to it at first, if I'm honest. I think I saw the Dana Warren Johnson cover before I saw anything else, but it's good stuff.
I will say for anybody at home, Rick Remender has a lifetime pass for me. So if anything comes out by him, it's only a handful of creators. Ed Brubaker, Jonathan Hickman, Tom King, and Mark Russell have that. Where if their name's on a book, even if it's a book that's like I would never read normally, like Walking Dead, I would pick it up if it was written by one of those.
Or if it's middling, we'll make excuses for them.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But you know what? But we don't usually have to, and that's why they stay on the list.
Absolutely. I want to pop back over to Helen of Windhorn, though. So I was actually surprised. I was going to bring this up. Hopefully it's not spoiler or whatever else, but there's a supernatural element to it, which I was surprised was getting kicked in there. Like we're starting to see like the fantasy elements of it.
Yeah,
right?
No. It's about an adorable drunk who hides in corners. I'm like, this is where I'm at. I love that. I loved Helen.
Yeah. No, it was like it's again another book of his where if you don't dig this style, you probably won't like this one either. But it's basically narration. From the viewpoint of like her caretaker, more or less.
But it's narration by a great writer. And the caretaker is she's very like prim and librarianish, but like well-meaning. I liked her.
Yeah.
They didn't make her cold like would have been the cliche. So, and they always find her with an empty bottle, passed out, and she's afraid to go to sleep. And then like her once she she has this tough exterior, but she always has to go to her caretaker and sleep with her because of her nightmares, and she's a grown up. It's like that was adorable, and immediately like, oh, I feel for her. I want to know what's going on here.
So,
and that art,
art is fantastic.
It's another one like Avengers Twilight, where I wouldn't be surprised if these scripts were done years ago, and Bilquis just been working on the art since.
That is the case on this one.
Okay.
So, she's been working on it. Like, this is what she's been working on since Supergirl. Like, so it's been a while.
Wow.
Like, Tom had the script done. She's been working on the art side of things. So I think what we're looking at here is there's not going to be any delays in Helen of Windhorn. I think it's going to be all the way through.
Essentially done.
It's essentially done.
Close enough. That's good. That's good.
So I love that book. The other one from the previous week, before we get into, because I do want to talk about Avengers Twilight, Dead X-Men, the third one.
Still liking it?
I'm still liking it. I mean, there's nothing. They're not really adding anything. Like, they keep bouncing around, and it's cool. You just see cool variations of things. Like, so they're, like I said, they're looking for the original Moira, and they've got like a crazy half cyborg Moira that's kind of leading them through all of these. So like the into the multiverse of madness scene where you see, Doctor Strange go through the different like universes and stuff like that. It's kind of like doing that, but they kind of stick around a little bit in each one of these and just goofing off. I mean, it's a fun book. I don't know what to say. Like, nothing is really
well, and
it's going to tie in at the end, as far as they'll find something and that'll tie into the greater universe. But as of right now, it's just a romp, and it's great.
I gotcha. Speaking of Twilight, though, I mean, that's about to end, and we're going to get a whole new X-Men launch.
Yes,
very exciting news.
Yes. So we also missed that
titles
last week.
that are going to be a complete breaking ground on a complete new X-Men. It's going to be the new jumping on point. Krakoa era is ending.
Back to the mansion.
And it's going to be led by one of my favorite writers and one excellent new up-and-comer, Jed MacKay. Gail Simone's writing the other title, and then something Ewing is writing the third one.
Yeah, I forget.
I'm less excited about that one, less enthused.
I haven't, it's yet to be seen. I'm enthused about the team, because that's the one that...
it is a good team.
White Queen and Kitty is on there, yeah. So, but the mainline X-Men book is Jed MacKay. And Uncanny, I believe, is the one that has Gail Simone.
Gail Simone, it's gonna be amazing.
So it's those three books, and then it wouldn't be an X-Men relaunch if you didn't throw in an extra 6 titles, and that's what we're getting. So you're getting like a Storm solo, a Wolverine solo, a Nyx solo.
Oh yeah. Interesting, they're bringing back Nyx.
Yeah.
Do you know when those come out?
Those, they have not released a date on those, because for the X-Men books mainline, so the MacKay X-Men is a June date, and then I think Uncanny is July, and then I think what's the third one? It's not Astonishing, it's not Exciting, it's
I can't
some
remember.
other word,
some fun
something X-Men, and that's the last one in the series.
Explains it, yeah.
But they're doing it monthly, and they're staggering them in that way.
Okay.
So that was exciting news, and then along with that, I believe we are ready to talk about Avengers Twilight from last week.
Keeps up with the momentum that is going. I thought this one was just as good as 3.
I agree.
Now we have all the Avengers assembled. Tony's still in a jar, but he gets his suit by the end of it. Mm-hmm. He gets his suit, and him and Thor and Kamala they're just kicking ass. It's just now we have a rousing tale by Earth's mightiest heroes,
and we have an objective, which is kind of cool. I mean, Chip has done an amazing job making me hate James Stark up to this point, as being like a snot-nosed little punk-ass bitch. But
I will say, I thought their big bad revealed his hand too quickly and gave James more doubt than he could have, because he's been. It's implied that he's been playing this long game for years, and now all of a sudden it's like
ta-da!
Yeah, but it was still fun. I mean, also it's 6 issues. We gotta wrap this up eventually. But great comic, great issue. I can't wait to see number 5.
Because I believe 5, according to the cover and solicitations, we've had somebody that's kind of filled the gap for the Hawkeye role up to this point.
But I think
addition. She's finally getting the costume, which I'm excited about. It looks sharp. It looks awesome. That super sweet Alex Ross cover.
Is Chip Zdarsky writing anything else right now?
You just finished up Newburn.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's
then,
the final issue's coming out this week. I'm very excited for that.
He's doing Batman.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, he's fantastic. Also, he did say that he wants to get to do more Chip classes.
Yes.
He said he'd like to do those all the time if he could. So he's looking for a way to do that.
He's also been working on, and I guess we can talk about that now because it releases this upcoming week, is the Complete Sex Criminals.
Yes.
They added, there's some material there as far as additional content. I don't think it's issues or anything like that. I think it's like more of like a preface or like an epilogue type thing.
Yeah.
Where we actually have in store in preparation for next week, we have we've got I don't know, it was like 5 or 10 copies where you had to order so many copies, but then you got like the signed, the book plate.
So you get signed
by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky. So if you don't have Sex Criminals already, you can get the complete collection next week with the signed book plate.
Mm-hmm. And that is the first comics work that Chip ever did.
Yep. Only art, right?
Yep.
Fraction wrote it in its entirety.
Yep. And then Fraction wrote it, and then he went right from that to Howard the Duck. And from there, he went straight to the moon, man. Chip's, and he's never looked back. He worked for a Canadian newspaper before that. He did. He had to do comics for that. But Chip's my guy. But that'll bring us to this week's DC books, I think.
We can't yet.
Not yet. What are we missing?
Ultimate Black Panther 2.
Oh, and again, just keeping that rolling. There's not been a non-great Ultimate book yet.
Very, very impressed with Ultimate Black Panther. Because I have to admit, like when they announced the three, I was least excited about Black Panther. But I don't want to say it's on par with Spider-Man. I don't know if anything would be for me. I mean, I just can't get past that block. But
it is
Black Panther is exceeding expectations.
Very much.
I like the political intrigue, along with like the art is fantastic.
The art is great. I still want him to fix his mask, but
that part is annoying. Like
minor
they should
gripe,
just cover
minor gripe. But yeah, and this one had we got to see Shuri getting in on the action.
And at the end, there's a reveal of a character. Yeah,
that just makes you want to stand. It makes you want to slap your forehead because you should have thought of it. But then it's just like, let's go, man. It was a great rousing issue.
Yep. So if you're not that far behind, if it's something you want to get into, there is a second printing of Ultimate Black Panther #1 that's out at stores now, and you should be able to find those. It's different than the first print. Like people had a little bit of notice on this
because all these books are going into second and third printings. That's how big this Ultimate line is.
Ultimate Spider-Man 1 just went into fourth
printing for Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate Spider-Man 3 comes out this week. So
yep. And then Ultimate Black Panther 2 gets a thumbs up, seal of approval. Like read the Ultimate books if you haven't been reading them. They should be accessible now.
Still early days,
Still
Spider-Man
early enough
3, Black Panther 2, X-Men only has 1 out. So because we're all leading up to the Ultimates coming out in a few months.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, I'm sorry. Now we can get to this week's DC.
Oh, can we, Your Highness? Wait, who's writing the Ultimates? It's that guy who wrote 21st Century Men.
If you want to go ahead and start with the DC talk, I can pull that name for you.
Okay. This week, we read a couple of great comics. I'm going to say my favorite for last, probably. Justice Society of America #9. I love that Johns is still here and still doing DC work, even with Ghost Machine. And now that he's just doing one title, it's clearly like, it's where his heart's always been, as I think, the JSA.
Yep.
He created Stargirl for the JSA, and he wrote an amazing run on the Justice Society that introduced a lot of people to those characters, because not everybody was a weirdo in high school reading, Our Man comics from the 40s.
Right.
So that's great. Actually, no, I have 2 favorites this week. Superman 12. Again, this is a book that's just, it's not going to, rewrite the book on Superman, but it is a fun, compelling read each week. And I think this is probably my favorite DC book that Williamson is writing right now.
I think we've kind of discussed this about him in general, which we'll get to another one of his books coming up soon. But like Williamson's doing the G.I. Joe side of things for the Energon universe, and he's doing Superman. And I think he does great when he's living in that space of like just keep it rocking, like a romp, whatever else. Like, I don't know that I think that there's, pulling a bunch of, tying a bunch of loose ends together into an event type thing. I don't know if that's really there. I haven't seen it, at least at this point, but like he can take a book and as long as it's moving, write a good story.
Yeah. He's great at momentum. And we'll speak about that because he's doing Cobra Commander, right?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so
Dennis Camp is the name of the gentleman doing
Dennis Camp, yeah. And Dennis Camp is the one that's doing the Ultimates book. And if anybody's read 21st Century Men, they know that this guy is 21st Century Men was in the way that people call mislabel movies Hitchcockian when they don't deserve it. they labeled this, Alan Moore, Ian, and I agree with that. Mm-hmm. That's how good 21st Century Man is. That's how good his writing was. That's what he was aspiring to. So I'm very...
It's just 20th Century Man, isn't it?
20th Century Man, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I was thinking of the sequel that hasn't been written yet. Nightwing 112. This book, this is the beginning of the final arc of Bruno Redondo and Tom Taylor's just like iconic run. This is probably going to go down as probably the best Nightwing ever.
It's been great.
And it's hard to argue that. This has brought back all of his history, all, good and bad, and put it all into one. I won't. The story is not epic. It's intimate. It's an intimate story. It's concentrating just on Bloodhaven, mostly on street level crime, mostly on and then on his relationships with like his Barbara for sure, and like the people of the town, the people of the city that he protects.
His dog.
His dog. It's just been a great book. I'm sad to see it ending, but I'm glad that we got it to begin with. I think we got 5 more issues before he's gone.
I'm grateful.
Or 3.
I'm happier if it's leaving at top of its game than it just sticking on too long. And who knows? Also, I mean, it could be that they've got another project going on, and we may be more excited about that one because creatively they're feeling like that. The wind is changing or something like that.
Tom Taylor's a busy guy because he also did Titans number 9 that came out this week, and again, like I said, since Beast World's over, Titans is good again. And Beast World had very little impact on the DCU.
Right.
For a world ending potential events, except for that now Beast Boy feels bad. But there's a great moment in this one where Superman is in Titan's Tower with with Robin, and Beast Boy pulls him aside and he says, "Hey Batman, can I talk to you for a second?" He's like, "You're used to everybody hating you, right?" And Batman's like, "Oh, what?" But then he asks him like, "What should he do?" And Batman, because Garth is he's so well liked and he's not used to everybody hating him because everybody blames him for Beast World. And Batman gives him some great advice, and it was worth.
You're used to everybody hating you, right?
It was great, and Batman gives some just perfect Batman advice, and it's like, yeah, man, he'll be all right. So it was great. It was definitely worth a read. As was Green Lantern War Journal number 7. Again, Philip Kennedy Johnson is doing this great space epic. Oh my gosh, Philip Kennedy Johnson can do epic. Anybody who's read The Last God, or I guess it's called the Fellspear Chronicles now, knows, or anybody who read his Warworld saga, he's just doing the work. And Jon Stewart's finally getting his day in the sun. They call him the Builder, which is great. Mm-hmm. That's how he's known. One of the two. There's 2 books this week that were just pure fun. One was Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong.
That thing rocked.
It was just so awesome. There are 3 or 4 splash pages that are just like, I don't know. I told Craig I didn't tell Craig I should have. It was like having dessert and then having dessert afterwards. It was just like that's what this was. This was nothing but just like treat after treat after treat. It was too much.
I don't know.
I'd take an insulin shot after because it was so sweet.
We talked about it before about how the Silent Night book, you could tell it wasn't a cash grab. It was like there was a story to tell. Mm-hmm. And this one was fun. And like it pulls in the cool, like in this one in particular even. So like Godzilla's out of commission because they chained him to the bottom of the ocean with nth metal,
of course.
Right? So it's like he's like, okay, well he's occupied for now, but we still have to take care of all the rest of it. And I don't want to spoil anything, but do you remember when the Green Lanterns come into play?
Green Lanterns is the best part, and how the Lanterns fight the kaiju is one of the best things that's happened this year. And then,
but how it ends up too, I laughed hard. I couldn't help.
Of course, and of course it was Guy.
Right, exactly.
And then anybody who doesn't think that Batman had a plan for a kaiju invasion, more fool you. All right, that's on you for thinking that he.
I want to just talk about it because the funniest thing about that whole thing it's not just Batman at the helm. To the right of him, he's got Flash on the treadmill.
Flash and Cyborg, right?
Yeah.
And then Damian's flying a Batwing, which when it has to change to battle stations, it forms a pterodactyl, and it's like this is the coolest effing book ever. And
it's awesome.
If any of those cynical a-holes are like, oh, Godzilla in American Godzilla doesn't count, like shut up, just shut up. Oh my gosh. But no, a great book. One of the 2 pure fun. The other one that was pure delight this week was the Ape Real Special. Ape as in APE Real.
Right.
And this is a book that it's 3 stories, all combining DC's famous chimps and apes and monkeys into one book, and you will be surprised how many A and B list characters are simian as far as the.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Because you don't even think about it. Like, they just had to compile
then you see Beppo the super monkey, you see San Simeon, you see Grodd, you see Mala, you see, of course, my beloved Monkey Prince, Gleek, and then probably the greatest chimp character of all time, Detective Chimp. And they have to team up to fight. They have to team up to fight Grodd. And Mala. Not every.
That wasn't good enough.
Ape is a good ape.
There was a Crisis on Infinite Earths homage. That's Monkey Prince holding the banana peel.
A banana peel.
Like crying.
By Bernard Chang.
Bernard Chang.
Yeah, and it looks great. I'm not a fan of those homage covers, but that was pitch perfect. Like you have more than earned that.
And then a scratch and sniff banana scented cover.
It was so much fun. And you can't call it a cash grab because not everybody is jockeying for a monkey ape, a DC ape themed April Fool's issue.
I've been waiting for so long for all of these apes to come together.
Just having Gleek and Monkey Prince together, it's the stuff dreams are made of.
So how did it make you feel? I mean, it's been a little bit since the Monkey Prince has had a book because Luan Yang actually wrote this, right?
Yeah. But I didn't know because he has the third story and it's only like a 5-page story. The first story in the thing is about 30 pages long, and Monkey Prince is there. And when he first shows up in the panel, I got goosebumps. I was elated to see him.
It just feels like putting on an old pair of shoes.
A very comfortable pair of shoes that also happens to be the best DC character created in the last few years. Like, I love these shoes. I wish he needs to be a bigger part of the DC thing ongoing. Maybe that's my thing with Josh Williamson. Is like, give me more Monkey Prince, Ben. I want some more Marcus Shugle-Shen. I mean, I know his grandfather did some messed up stuff. Ultra Humanite was the, if I'm not mistaken, I think Ultra Humanite was the first big bad that Superman had in the 40s.
Really?
Yeah.
That's odd.
It's always like, it's never who you expect. Like Batman, his first like real big bad besides Joe Chill, which I don't count, was Hugo Strange. That's who he fought first. Yep. It's you never think of these. Speaking of that though, my second to last is Batman Superman World's Finest 25. I lament that Mark Waid is leaving Shazam, which is one of the best books coming out, but I'm loving that he's still on World's Finest.
Laura's off too. It's a completely new book.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll probably stay with it because it's Shazam, but the World's Finest is just it's absolute thrill ride. He's writing Silver Age books, so
25 issues in this economy.
And
can't even believe it.
They're throwbacks. I mean, they have that Silver Age flair. They're silly. Like Batman broods, but not that much. The humor is there, and there's if they have Batman fighting, if like Joker uses a giant typewriter to fight Batman, I would not be surprised, and it would fit into this book. Also, Mark Waid is firing on all cylinders because, like we said, he did a sequel to Kingdom Come, which I would have never wanted before, and he killed it. It was great, and it ties in with his World's Finest stuff, like two pretty disparate works. So it was great. But the book of the week, whenever this book comes out, and it came out this week, is Wonder Woman #7.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what else come out.
It's not fair. This one might as well be Godzilla because whenever it comes out, it wrecks the buildings.
That's true.
It just walks through downtown Tokyo, crushing buildings. You can't stop it. It's so good. This one has art. Dan Sampier had to take a month off to probably do an incredible work, or I don't know, like sculpt something for a.
Ice his wrist.
Yeah.
Who knows? He deserves it.
But Guillaume March, the fantastic artist, fills in, and it fits perfectly. You don't. After a few pages, it's like an old friend. Like welcome to the family, March. But this is it's a bottle issue where it kind of. I won't say out of continuity, but
we discussed it before.
You can read it on its own, and it's Superman and Wonder Woman going to an intergalactic super mall to find the perfect birthday gift for their friend Bruce, and there is so much to enjoy. There's so many, like somebody, a nefarious space alien recognizes Superman and tries to quickly buy kryptonite from a
shop
so that he can kill Superman. And then Wonder Woman's there. It's more of a nuisance than anything. Like, look, we're just here to shop. Wonder Woman has to find a place to park her invisible jet.
Yeah.
Which Superman doesn't have to worry about that because he just flew there. And then. Again, like it has everything in the universe, in the known universe, but they just can't find the perfect gift for their friend Bruce until the very end. And I won't spoil it for you, but my goodness gracious, if you don't feel something, then you might as well just
Well, and it's perfect.
Drive yourself to the morgue.
The fun part about this book are the moments. So there's a few instances where I'd say like 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, some dad jokes coming out of Clark.
Oh, and they're great dad jokes.
Top notch.
They're great dad jokes. And of course, Clark is so, loving and lovable. And the way that him and Diana, they're old
Their
old
relationship's
friends, they're old
awesome.
comrades, and they're just talking like family talks.
Right.
And there is a running joke like, whatever the one suggests for Bruce, the perfect gift, the other one is like, no, that's not good. The only gift that they can both agree is
Neither one of them thinks it's a good idea to get Booster's book.
Booster Gold is doing a signing on his new his new autobiography, and they just great. Every page has like 3 or 4 delightful things that are
They go to the food court and they end up getting, they go to the coffee shop thing, and it's fun. Like
It's so much
It's like something
fun.
as simple as going and making the order. You're like, that makes sense.
They get a mani-pedi, which
Yep.
and how do you cut Superman's nails? Well, you'll find out. It's just it's wonderful. And she keeps making the joke like whenever he gets attacked by an alien or whenever he suggests something like Black Canary, this never happens with Black Canary, and it's
Right.
so great. I also love the idea so it's canonical that like her and Black Canary sometimes go to the
mall.
super mall
Yeah.
just for a girls' day. I love it. But that's the book of the week.
An amazing jumping on point. You can read
Yes.
this; it's
Yes.
inconsequential, and then the next arc
starts a new
thing, and it looks like he's been saving up Cheetah.
her iconic big bad, and we were wondering because most of our other major rogues have already teamed up and fallen. It's like, where's Cheetah? Why is she if he's celebrating her history, and she's on the cover, so I'm very excited. I'm assuming it's going to be Barbara Minerva. There are other Cheetahs, but come on, who cares? Yeah. But yeah, I'm sorry that we peaked, but that's not to say that the rest of these books aren't great because on the Marvel side, Fantastic Four number 18, I just can't. I don't know how this guy does this. Ryan North, month after month. I don't know how he can come up with just these bottle issues that are their own stories, and they're absolute genius. And again, if Neil deGrasse Tyson had to do the thing with movies that he does had to do the thing with comics that he does with movies, the science is sound, the physics are sound, and there are physics in each one of these books. But as I always tell Craig, and physics is fun. And it's a blast. And Ryan North makes it fun. When you have Reed trying to do complex calculus in his head so he can stop a meteor in real time, it's fantastic. And Franklin Valeria, he writes a great Ben. He writes a great Silly Johnny. It is one of the best books that Marvel.
And another one where you can just jump in. Like they don't really touch
you can jump in because any issue is pretty much self-contained. There's going to be a 2-issue tie-in with Blood Hunt. Again, I don't know how they're going to do that, but I'm excited to see what Ryan North has in store for that. But yeah, I also read Vengeance of the Moon Knight number 3. That story is moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jim McKay, busy guy because he's writing all the Marvel books now, but
Strange, Moon Knight, Avengers, yep, and then Blood Hunt coming up, and he's got a lot of stuff. Yep.
Did you read any more Marvel? I thought I read more.
Marvel, I did not. I focused a lot on Independence this week.
Yeah, well, so we can start. Speaking of Joshua Williamson, Cobra Commander number 3, I love this book. Did you read this one?
I did not read that one.
This is Cobra Commander being amazingly villainous, amazingly cool. This is actually one of the best written Joshua Williams comics I've seen ever. It's got a great he sets up things that are knocked down at the very end, and it ties into the overall story. And we got a way more. We're very much seeing how the Transformers are going to be part of this. It was great.
We got the announcement. We didn't. I think it happened within the last few weeks, so we haven't said anything. We've got the Destro book coming out, and we've got Scarlet written by Kelly Thompson.
It's
pumped.
And if anybody's read Kelly Thompson's Captain Marvel or her Black Widow, when she takes on a character that she's passionate about, it's going to be one of the better books there is. Speaking of one of the better books there is, and Rick Remender is Rick Remender and Andy Samberg's The Holy Roller number 5. This is the best. This issue, I laughed out loud. It was great. He goes to a QAnon or incel meeting in an auditorium where they bring up a Coachella hologram of Hitler, and Hitler, and Hitler explains, I sure I made some oopsies in my past, but who hasn't? Are you gonna deny me a second chance? That's not what America's about. And of course, everybody buys it because that mob mentality, and it's so great. And then they find out that the Holy Roller is there. And he has to snap into action and fight off a bunch of new neo-Nazis.
It's so funny.
Neo? It was such a great... I mean, that book is such a great ride, and it feels good. And, like, yeah, he's fighting Nazis, but it is a book that, like, you know, it just feels good every week. And also, whenever you see a Nazi take a bowling ball to the face, you know, that's a win for America. It's always good. Did you get... what else did you read on that side?
Oh, goodness. So I read issue 2 of If You Find This, I'm Already Dead, that Kent book again. Issue 2 came out.
Yes.
This one was very interesting. Like, so the first one was very action packed. Like, she jumped off the plane and it felt like, you know, like the scene in, you know, Terminator where it classically showed the wars and there's like a bunch of explosion like that. That's how the book started off. This one was very, it moved quickly, but it was like focused on language. So like last we left our protagonist, she's kind of marooned. Like everybody gets killed. She's kind of by herself. So she's trying to walk around incognito, pick up on the languages, you know, just survival at this point. So she ends up like talking with people and learning the language, but then there's some disconnects there, and she ends up mistakenly end up like one of their cults, and she gets like sacrificed. But it doesn't kill her. It's weird. It's out there, but I love this. But what I really like about this is she's going through and she's seeing all these things and she's calling it out. And basically all of these things are alien, and it just keeps talking about how like it's indescribable. I can't describe the taste. I can't describe the smell and things like that. But like what she does recognize is like humanity's cruelty and things like that, where she's like questioning if it's like, are all of these things, is it not humanity? Did we not create this? Is just like, are all of these things just an existing thing throughout
sounds very
all of the universe?
Very Kent-like. Yeah, like is this how life, is this what essentially
right
being,
is this just what it is
what we're gonna
when
do?
you have societies or whatever else?
Have you ever been on a hostile alien planet?
I mean, not recently.
I feel like you'd have told me about it if you had. No, I read I read the first issue. I loved it. This and James Bond by Garth Ennis. I have not gotten to this week. They're the only two. But two more that we absolute musts is well, first, you know what we'll do. First, we'll do Dawn Runner.
Yes,
Dawn Runner, the new book by Ram V and the art by
Evan Cagle.
This is the best art of the week. This art is incredible.
It's insane.
This is his take on Kaiju versus Mech, that old chestnut. And I read it, and it was a really good story. It was very like, yep, this is what this is like. The art kept me going. The art was so good when they
blew me away.
When they fought, it felt epic. It felt huge. It was very much what Sam Pierre did in the last Wonder Woman when
I loved like the celebrity status. Like my favorite part of this book leading up to that point was like people they turned it into a sport and everybody's like cheering for her. And she's like, oh look, it's
the pilot of the mechs. They probably get ad deals and everything. Plus she's hot. But again, like I was like, this is Ram V. This is one of the greatest new creators working. Why is he doing a story so regular? Like maybe he just wanted just want to have fun.
Like plain. Yeah.
Last 2 or 3 pages, he completely flips the script. You realize that you're in the hands of a master. You're just a guy. You're just a janitor. Why don't you get back to your trash bags, Shane? Because it becomes something else. He opens it up, and
in my defense, I felt the same way. There's nothing to do with being a janitor.
I'm just saying you didn't have to say that. But it was so good. I'm like, well, if that's what we're doing, let's do it. Let's do it, Ram.
It's insane.
Yeah. So Dawn Runner, that's his Dark Horse book.
Pick up this book. It's not even a question.
Dawn Runner #1, such a blast. I mean, the theme this week it was fun because comics are fun, gang. And speaking of, talk about fun, I think we have to end on the second best book of the week. Crowd favorite. Read it to your kids. It's Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees #4.
Absolutely.
By Patrick Horvath. Written and drawn by Patrick Horvath. And just, boy, does it.
It keeps going.
Yeah, it does.
I mean...
he completely again turns the tables in this one. I thought the thing with the mystery was going to be about who is the killer.
Right.
She figured that out
immediately.
Because as I said, the serial killers make great detectives. But this serial killer was
already onto her,
and he was a fan of her, and she gives him. He wants to team up, and she gives him the old blow off. She gives him the old cold shoulder, and you shouldn't do that to serial killers. usually goes pretty badly, and it does go. It goes about as badly as it can in this one.
It goes sideways. I'm curious to see how
quick. It ends with our hero on the run.
Yeah.
Also, how sympathetic do they make this serial killer? Like, I really hope she's okay.
It's
so she can get back to murdering innocents.
Yes, but a lot of that is, and I love the story. It's a compelling story, but I can't express enough like how good the art is and how expressive all of the pictures and characters are. Because like, part of the reason, like,
if you didn't buy this as a Norman Rockwell town, and the art sells that, but that's what makes it so unique and so compelling.
Yes.
Like these are small town folk, good-natured folk in this, nothing ever happens. They leave their doors unlocked, and the art
howdy neighbor
absolutely expresses that. And what he can do with the character acting he does with all of his characters, like especially
the facial expressions.
This one's victim who goes home unhappy and sad, and you really feel for him without dialogue. It's just like, I don't know. And again, like her expressions, Sam's expressions, her looks, her cursory glances, they're all meaningful, and they're rendered so well that you're there. Yeah.
And I really hope, I mean, this is a taste of things to come from IDW too, because I don't want to say that they needed a win, but they recently got rid of, the Transformers, and they got rid of G.I. Joe, which is obviously, we're enjoying Energon, where like, I don't think anybody really looked back. I haven't been giving it like, oh man, good old, IDW stuff, because moving forward, like, this has been amazing.
Yeah, when you're on a roller coaster, you're not like, oh, I love the ground.
They have maintained, and this is an excellent segue actually, as far as the IDW stuff.
You know what? If I thought he's getting his tokens, he's about to jump on the Segway. I'm gonna take off.
Okay.
Everybody, I've got to go. Ian McKellen's texting me again. I hope it's fine this time. I don't know. Like, I didn't even know. There's no way Sandusky is having a second cultural.
Well, be safe.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. I'll be with Ian. He'll be fine. If you need me though, you've got his number.
Sure,
that'll be fine. I'm gonna tag in our friend Chris Fecteau though, resident TMNT expert.
Absolutely. And then we're gonna try to call Nolan up here and get him on here. But we're actually gonna transition from that. Like I said, we were talking about IDW previously. Like I was saying, they had G.I. Joe and Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Well, they maintained Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it looks like, with the news we've had in the past few months, we know why, and that's because they're going big with it. They've introduced new creative teams. They've introduced a renumbering of the book in its entirety. So currently, if you haven't been keeping up, and we haven't really talked about it much on here, but the current path of everything is it's going on the road to 150, which in the summer, it's going to be issue 150 on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles mainline book. I'm sorry, let me actually... Hey, here's Nolan. We're going to flip on that mic and get everybody else here involved. Cool. One sec. So we've got, like I said, we were on the road to 150. And then we will be... at 150, getting a one shot. Do you remember, Chris? Do you remember the name of the one shot that's going on in between? Do you happen to remember?
They have the storybook, and then there's like an alpha.
Right, the alpha book that happens in June. Yep.
Yeah.
And then it kicks off again in July. So we're both here now. We had to do some shifting around because Shane did have to leave and stuff. So I'm going to introduce Chris Fecteau. You can go ahead and introduce yourself and, tell everybody, we know him as Turtle Guy in the shop.
I was going to say, if you've come into the shop and you've heard about this Turtle Guy that's been around, that's me. My name's Chris. Moved to Fort Wayne about 3 years ago. Been loving it. And I'm in the shop probably once or twice a week, kicking around, talking with the regulars and vagrants alike, so to say. I've really enjoyed my time in the shop, and me being on the podcast here is probably 2 years of a long game of trying to get on the podcast. So I'm happy to be here. Yeah,
he had to come up with his own idea to get on here.
That's pretty much
a lot of work.
Happened. Yeah,
a lot of work.
Yeah, for sure. And with the relaunch happening in July, with comic book royalty, right, as a writer, going in for. Right now, it's announced for 4 issues, but they've announced Night Watcher coming out. They have Black and White, TMNT Black and White is another
Black, White, and Green.
Black, White, Green, yeah. So I feel like we're in a more sustainable turtle mania that doesn't feel like a bubble of
And
sorts.
I think it's all purposeful because this year does mark the 40th anniversary. So the first introduction into turtles, just to go back for a little bit of background, is it was 1984. That was like when the Mirage, like that was when the very, very beginning when Laird and Eastman actually released the book completely independently.
Yeah.
And everything, we all know the story from there. It blew up. I grew up, my first exposure, which I'm sure is the same as yours, Chris, was the cartoon.
That's it.
Right?
I mean, for most of us, right?
Which then you
Chuck Lorre,
right?
I mean, the creator of Two and a Half Men, like, and all these other iconic shows, created an animated series.
Right.
It's crazy to look back on.
You go from there to the movie, right? Which was at the time, and I think even if you account for inflation, it might be the most successful independent film of all time.
Yeah, highest grossing, I think. Filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is kind of interesting because I happen to be working for a company now that is based out of there. So the farmhouse is a real place. Everybody, all the locals have stories about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But growing up in New England, so I grew up in Connecticut, have family in New Hampshire, and that's where Eastman and Laird are from.
Yeah.
And so that's always in the background of my mind of like how that happened. And yeah, I guess the story of the genesis was that they were just messing around, kind of sketching out different ideas, and they kind of one-upped each other. And next thing you know, they have this small little run, and they show up at a flea market, and they launch it at a mini.
They printed it themselves. Like
the whole thing.
That's why the whole first printing thing is a big deal because
huge deal. Yeah.
They put those together legitimately themselves. And there's some kit out there. I mean, I think you've seen it. Like it's on Key Collector or whatever else, but there was like little mini not even like self-printed. Like these were like created like little portfolio things even where it's like the original works, like original stuff. And then it's just unreal to see like the level in which it's become. Because on C2E2 last year, we went.
Right.
And we were both able to witness the line for Kevin Eastman's, Laird, obviously, we'll get to that coming up because I'm going to talk about what your plans are here in this upcoming April. But you bore witness to when Eastman shows up, what happens. I mean, yes, it was Chicago. There's a lot of people, but all day long, the line is at least 3-4 hours. It's insane.
It's a huge table. I mean, he's got his own setup. He's got this partnership with, its own comic book shop. It's just an online comic book shop, and they have all of their covers, and they're a little variant crazy if you personally, and that's just my opinion.
As somebody that has to buy all of them.
As someone who feels compelled by all of that. But I will say, not just him.
Right.
All of the other turtle creators, with Gavin Smith there, with Meyer there. I mean, and of course, they're all very gracious and kind with their time and everything. And that was my first experience at a con last year. So yeah, to see all that is it's incredible. Yeah.
No, it was a lot of fun seeing, because you kind of, a little bit of time goes by in between projects, whatever. And you're like, oh man, is there Turtle Mania? And then you go there and you see that and you're like, yeah, it never goes anywhere. They're just waiting. They're just waiting for the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, Turtles has just always been something that kind of persisted in the background growing up. And it goes back to, I would say like 2008 or so. I went to school in New York, used to work in Manhattan, and I went to Midtown Comics, in Manhattan, and I bought a handful. I was like, oh, this is cool. It's a number one. I didn't know what printings were or anything. I was like, oh, this is a number one. Turns out it was a fourth printing. I got it for $5.
Right.
And I had this little stack that moved around with me over the last 15 years or so.
Right.
And it was one day about 2.5 years ago.
Like, I'm just going to get them all.
Well, I kind of said that. I was like, what are these things worth? And now that $5 book is no longer worth $5. This first issue Raphael is no longer worth that.
Right.
And then at the same time, Last Ronin comes out of nowhere.
Yep.
I mean, for a lot of people, came out of nowhere. And
last year, just to throw the stats, that was the best-selling collected edition book, period. 2023, it was Last Ronin,
and I think it was voted like best graphic novel. Trade. I mean, technically trade, right? But of the year, and it's still hard to find copies. And I think you've said a number of times you have a hard time keeping it in the shop.
Well, it's hard to gauge because I feel it's been so successful. like I don't want to place an order for 10 right now because
Sure.
there's a feeling where you're like, doesn't everybody already have this?
Right. Right.
So I still mistakenly like I'll order 3 at a time, and it'll sit there for like 2 weeks, but then all 3 will sell on the same day, and I'm right back to where I started. I have no idea what's regulating or pinching that hose, but like the answer to me, I'm an idiot. Keep buying it.
That is true.
Not everybody has it. That is true.
Sure.
So you got to continuously keep it in stock, and then adding fuel to that fire is that the sequel series,
Right.
Re-Evolution.
Yeah, I call it
Just started.
Re-Evolution being the proper sequel,
Right.
The prequel / sequel being Lost Years,
Right.
And then so that's just like zooming in on just comics, right?
Yeah.
When you zoom out and look at all of
Yes.
Turtle content right now, you have the very successful movie, which we could talk about if you'd like, but you have the series Tales of the TMNT coming back out. And then you have 2 video games coming on top of last year's Shredder's Revenge, which was, people loved that game as well. And then the Cowabunga collection. So that's why I say a more sustainable, quote unquote, Turtle Mania, that this isn't going anywhere. And they've proved that, till now. And now it's coming even in reserve.
I think I need to go back. Thinking about it, I need to emphasize that it was equal parts, not just the cartoon. It was an incredible job at merchandising. Incredible. I mean, it didn't just feed into like it was ridiculous. At least at the time frame, like you're talking in the 80s and 90s, you would go to the toy store. You would get the action figures at the mall, whatever, KB Toys, and then along the way there, you'd pass by the arcade, and there's the giant fuck off 4-player like Turtles in Time like side scroller.
Yeah,
and it was louder than any other machine in the building, and it was just like incredibly colorful. You're like, what is this? And it just like, at that point, I was all in on Turtles. I'm like, this is amazing. I mean, and I know it was a watered down, like, kiddie version, but I was a kid. I didn't care. But so like when I was old enough to figure out what it was, I was the proper age to like pick up on it. So I think like our age is ideal, actually. Like adults getting into the comic and then getting disappointed by it turning into a kid show. I could see how you would feel like, oh, well, this has gone downhill pretty quick. As compared to for us, we caught it in the kid stuff, fell in love with that one. They're like, okay, now I can read this as an adult. So
and looking back on that time, hindsight's 2020. We don't realize those 3 movies as they degraded.
Sure.
I mean, they all have their place. I feel like in nostalgia, they came out in a 2.5 to 3 year period.
Yeah,
like they came out at a clip that is today even unsustainable.
Like bam, bam. Just keep them in the suit. Keep them in the suit.
Yeah. Keep it going. And so obviously you're going to have some quality degradation there and that kind of thing. But to your point about the disappointment and things like that, I still see creators talking about, oh man, we just want like a really mature adult TMNT, thing. And like, I don't want this Mutant Mayhem thing. I didn't like it and that kind of thing.
It's too different.
Yeah, I can't stand it. And I'm like, first off, I personally, and I've said this a number of times, I'm not about the gatekeeping. The more people that are into Turtles, the better.
Absolutely.
I find your thing, find your entry, because you want to know what? I skipped all of the Nickelodeon.
Yep.
That was not my generation, right? Like the Rise was not my generation. Nolan over here, not to forget about Nolan.
I was going to say
Nolan was like, I love that series.
Yeah, I love the 2012
So
series.
So I've kind of discussed, we both found it through the cartoon. How did you get into it and at what time period? Nolan is obviously, he's quite a bit younger than us, so this is a cool, interesting perspective on this.
I don't remember 100% how I got into it, because I don't think it was any specific one of the shows. Maybe TMNT from 2000.
But it was like a cartoon or something, and then you found out about the comics later?
Yeah, the comics I didn't find out till way later.
Sure.
I didn't know there were any. I think I saw the 2007 movie TMNT in theaters, and that may have been it. But I also may have just seen the 3 movies.
So did you keep up from that point? Like, did you go and watch the
late 80s, 90s?
No, well, not even. I mean, so at that point when you
Turtle
decided,
Bay.
Yes, Turtle Bay. That's what I was asking. It's like because I'm waiting to meet a person that got into Turtles through Turtle Bay. I have not met a person yet.
I saw the Turtle Bay movies. I don't hate them. I love some things about them.
Sure, absolutely.
But no, I did not get into them because of that.
Okay.
I'm a little
You're too old for that.
Yeah.
So what did you or did you not like about the 07? Or did you just like take it for what it was at that time?
I liked a lot about it. It's been years since I've seen it. Since I feel like I recall the last time I saw it, I didn't love it
As much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at that time when I watched it, I wanted something more fun and not serious.
Sure.
That one's more serious. Now I might enjoy it a lot more.
So that movie is actually what I reference when somebody asks me who's your favorite turtle. My answer is actually, well, the best turtle is Raphael, because in that movie he breaks Leo's katanas in his size.
Right.
I'm like, so he's obviously the best, right?
Right.
But I mean, they're always butting heads, right? Kind of thing.
See, I don't know. Like I would, because of the early, he wasn't like that in the cartoon, right? At all. Like they were all just like, "Hey guys, pizza, am I right?" I mean, that was the entirety of the show.
Well, I mean, he was crude, but he was cool but rude, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
In the 80s, they were all the people's turtles. Just care about pizza and nothing else.
But sure. But the movie, I didn't like him. I was pissed.
I thought he was
Raphael.
brooding. Very brooding.
It changed my entire outlook on Raphael. I started disliking him at that point because he got all the rest of him into some shit. I'm like, get your shit together, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I was upset with Raphael because I was like, I mean, I understand. Now that I'm older, I think about like growing up in a sewer. This probably sucks.
Yeah.
There's
And now
all
we
this
get the
stuff.
Night Watcher, right?
Right.
Which is from that movie. So
Sure.
it's kind of fun. The Turtle Bay, though, I'm curious what you liked about it, Nolan, because the only thing I thought they got really right in that movie is the personality of the turtles.
Yes.
Like there was a brotherhood to that turtles. The elevator scene is just classic.
And they were very distinctly different.
Very distinctly different. And I will say, with age and with our new project that we're about to talk about, I will go as far as that. I respect the origin story being so different.
Sure.
In that movie with April knowing them in the lab and that kind of thing.
Sure.
So, I'm curious what you liked or didn't like in that.
Really, the only scene I loved was the elevator scene. That scene
so
is
good.
like
It's a good scene, for sure.
that scene. Like it plays in my head fairly regularly. Like sometimes when I'm just bored sitting there, I'll just go MC Mikey. Like
Right.
it is. I love everything about that scene.
It's goofy.
But like you said, the relationship of the turtles and just the personality of them, that I thought they nailed. And obviously April's great in it, and the Shredder's great in it.
Sure.
And everything that's terrible in it is actually great, and you're just wrong.
No, I don't see.
No, I'm kidding.
No, I don't have a
That's
huge
terrible.
problem with those, to be completely honest. I mean, everything, I try to be balanced. Like, I didn't walk into a Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie expecting Shakespeare. I did not expect that. I had watched his Transformers. I knew what to expect from his Ninja Turtles. That's why he got the job. Somebody decided they wanted a Turtles movie like that, and I was there for it. So when you walk in and you're like, this is going to be stupid, there might be a robot that has balls in this. And I'm fine with it because I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, as long as they showed they had the distinct personalities and then the relationship and all of that. However, I want to shift over to Mutant Mayhem, and I feel it's really weird. Like, and it's probably just because it's more recent. Like, I feel like I've heard more hate for Mutant Mayhem than I have for the Bay movies, when the Bay movie deserves way more hate than Mutant Mayhem does.
I sure think so. The thing with Mutant Mayhem, I think people walked in with that
Too different, you think?
darker,
Or-
well, the darker expectation, the more serious expectation, maybe because of the 07 last animated
Sure.
feature
Yeah.
try. But Mutant Mayhem sort of went under the radar for a while.
Yeah.
Like Kevin Eastman wasn't really talking about it. He wasn't really affiliated with it for a long time.
Yeah.
Until like the launch of it. And so what's this animation style about? It looks darker. Maybe it's going to be grittier. Maybe it's not. And so to walk in and get a teenage coming of age acceptance brother story
Yeah.
was totally left field. I'm here for it. I think it's really great.
I loved that movie.
I think it's fantastic in a lot of ways. My only hook, is, like gripe, so to say, is with when you look back on all of the origins of specifically Splinter and Hamato Yoshi, they are either one's a pet of the other or they are the same
Rivals.
person,
Yeah.
right? And that is what creates the connection to feudal Japan and the rivalry with Shredder.
Right.
Because Splinter, Jackie Chan Splinter, who is fantastic in it,
Yes.
by all means, right? Don't use that word like that. It's so good. Because he learns
All of it
ninjutsu
through
which
tapes,
is hilarious, right?
Yes.
Because they're all Bruce Lee movies that some of Jackie Chan was in.
Yep.
Where is that connection? Now, I was on a live stream where Kevin Eastman was taking questions, and I asked that question.
Sure.
Like, how is this going to work? And he couldn't give too much away, but he did say that, one, he likes that that these like kind of movies is how Splinter learned of martial arts, because that's how he learned about them when he was a kid. So that's kind of funny to me.
Sure.
But he did ask that question to the creator, and apparently there's an answer, and there's some creative storytelling in the next one, which was just announced for October 26th.
That's awesome.
I think so, yeah.
No, it's cool. I mean, I'm not one to complain. I'm not a purist in the sense like it's rough being into comic books and then having it like spread out to different medias, because there's always one part of you that's like, just tell the original damn story. That's why you were interested to begin with, right? Like there's one part of me that's that, where like, just adapt this. But then there's the other part of me where I'm like, there has to be a Mutant Mayhem direction. You can't keep telling that territorial story like wait 10 years for a new generation of 10-year-olds and then just do the same thing over again, because you're going to lose those 20-year-olds all the way up if you're just doing the exact same thing. Like if you're going to do that, just re-release the damn movie like they do with Star Wars. It's like,
right.
Hey guys, there's a 5 at the end of the year, a 25th anniversary. Let's throw it back in the theaters. Like just do that if you're going to do it. Don't keep trying to keep retelling the story. So I'm a huge fan. The only thing I would say that was a backslide is I would say there's not as much difference in identity in Mutant Mayhem as far as uniqueness, really. Like there was uniqueness, but it wasn't in the standard like Turtles way. Like Michelangelo stood out because he was in love with April. Like,
which is an ongoing trope.
Which is an ongoing thing, yes. Which that was unique to him. But like I don't feel like they showed Donnie as being the tech nerd as well, or Leo.
Well, he had
being
glasses, so he's nerdy.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, but that's the extent.
That's
right?
what I'm trying to say. Is like, sure. I feel like they didn't explore that much. But what I really think they did well, maybe my favorite, is that sense of family is strong in that movie.
Sure,
very, very strong.
And for Donatello, I think they did a different thing with him, where if you look up like the College Humor bits or sketches. There's one where Donatello is kind of like the castaway, like because his weapon is just a stick.
Just a stick.
Yeah. And so he's dealing with like how he fits into the other four sometimes a little bit. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So like that moment in the van where he's like, we need something very long. And like,
where he's like, I've got it.
It's maybe like a stick. And he like ends up saving the day because of that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I appreciated that it wasn't just Leo and Raph at each other's throats the whole time. That they kind of put that to bed. But yeah, I'm curious to see how they get their individuality a little bit more for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think part of the problem with the expectation going into Mutant Mayhem is the trailers definitely gave off Spider-Verse vibes.
Yeah.
And when you go into it with the expectation of Spider-Verse, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, because that's not that serious.
Yeah. They're two very different things, but they were clearly at least inspired by this style.
I mean, but you had to know based upon the voice cast what this thing was.
Sure.
Like it is like a who's who of ridiculous, like Adam McKay style humor, like comedy. It's like from those of you that came, like who recognized the 40-year-old virgin, and I mean, it's pretty much everybody that was in that.
Well, Seth Rogen was involved, so what do you expect?
He produced it, yeah.
So I mean.
Now, we did skip over a fantastic animated movie that was really well done.
The Batman?
No.
No, I want to talk about that one. It was fantastic.
The Rise of the TMNT movie that was on Netflix. I mean, the animators on Spider-Verse, crawled because they were held back for so much, but walked so this new animation style that we're in can run, right?
Yeah.
And I think Rise of the TMNT was on there where they wanted to go full horror and they were never told no, and Krang looks scary in this movie. And while it does have another iteration of the Donnie versus Raphael, back and forth and battle, there's some parallels to the Dark Leo that happens in the IDW series there. And so I think there's something to your point of like, there has to be a mutant mayhem of sorts, like type of story.
Yeah.
I think Rise kind of fills in the middle. You have to get over the magical powers thing a little bit.
Sure.
I can't quite swallow that pill, but Mikey has a fantastic redemption story, right? Like all of these things in that movie, I think are fantastic too.
And they're good. They're just different. Not, it's allowed to be different. It's cool. I mean, I love that there are so many different things and so many different milestones so that everybody can arrive at these turtles kick ass. Right?
To exactly that point, the number of times you talk about how every generation has a different Spider-Man, right? Like,
well, as of late, we've had that turnover to where like I get some older folks coming in here and being like, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And then you have the younger kids that are like, Peter who?
Yeah.
It's like Miles Morales is Spider-Man, which is awesome. And I love that I get to talk to both.
Exactly.
I'm into both. And I'm now I'm on equal footing with 10-year-olds and 60-year-olds talking about Spider-Man. And we're getting to that point with Turtles.
I think so. The number of times I have been in this shop just kicking around, talking to people, and a kid walks in and he's got a turtle shirt on.
Right.
He's got turtle sneakers. And the first thing I say to that 4-year-old, 6-year-old, 20-year-old, who's your favorite turtle?
Right.
Like that's the first one. And that kid that's 5 years old always likes Michelangelo, and that's always fun,
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been really neat to see, to bring it back to comics for a second, to say, hey, have you checked out the Saturday Morning Adventure series? Like, that's right up the alley. Keep them away from The Last Ronin for right now.
Right.
But like, there's something over here for you too.
And then that kind of leads us into, there's Last Ronin, which is an IDW book, and then there is Saturday morning cartoons. Right there in the middle, I'd say, where you could feasibly be 10 to like preteen, is what is the current IDW run, which started 10 years ago now?
I think so.
12?
Maybe 12.
12 years ago now. So about 12 years ago, IDW started at 1 for a reboot, and they've been going ever since. So I made the previous comment about the road to 150. At 150, they are starting over at a number 1, but it's not a reboot. Everything that happened in that IDW run is valid. It is everything that happened. They're just doing a renumbering because there's a new creative team coming on. So Jason Aaron, starting in the June Alpha and into the mainline series, he is the mainline runner, which we've been very fortunate up to this point. This IDW line, and I guess I can let you guys go into it. I don't know if you've touched on it so far, but the announcement here, what we're all here doing and talking about is we're having an additional podcast that's going to be happening. So we're going to have 2 different shows over the course of a week. And the other one is the Cowabunga Chronicles, which is Nolan and Chris talking about and breaking down this IDW run to prepare you for the launch of this new book, which that's why they've joined us here today. We're announcing the Cowabunga Chronicles, and that'll start next week with the first episode. And if you guys want to go ahead and just take a few minutes and kind of discuss the format that you guys are working on and how you have it broken down and what people can expect from like starting on this first episode, like what are they going to hear?
Yeah, sure. I'll kick it off here. What's kind of understated, that 150 issues that they're on, that road to 150.
Nobody has a run that goes that long.
I was going to say that. There's nobody has gotten that far, but that's just the main line.
Right.
That's not all of the one-shots. That's not all the side stories and miniseries, right? And so if you really want to read every single issue in order, good luck. I mean, it is right next to impossible.
Yep.
And I only know this because I might be trying to collect them all, one issue at a time. So what I started to do was, hey, this relaunch is coming. All right, I'm going to start reading these volumes of the IDW Omnibuses collection series. And then I found out that Nolan is reading them. And I was like, what would be a cool way to like talk about this with someone? Nolan and I get to talk about these one at a time, one per episode.
Right.
I kind of outline them, talk about what happened in each issue. And then we talk about things that we liked and we didn't like. We're already a few episodes in on recording. We kind of banked a few, tried it out. But yeah, Nolan, go ahead and tell them more.
Well, first of all, I checked. It started in 2011.
Okay.
So it's like 13.
13 years. Cool.
Wild. So it's a teenager.
It is a teenager.
Nice. Sorry.
Wow.
As of this year.
Yeah, as of this year.
Yeah, I had read some of the issues or part of the first volume years ago, and when Jason Aaron was announced, I immediately was like, all right,
might as well just do it all. Yeah.
And
because it's relevant. It's not like this new thing isn't a jumping on point completely fresh. Like the reason why this is happening, the reason why the show is happening is because it will benefit you at least a little bit to know what's happened that entire time throughout those 150 issues. And I will say, and I'll hand the floor back over, but I have read a lot of it. Like not even like I'm currently collecting those IDW collections as you guys are. So I haven't been able to do it chronologically. I have those gaps where it's like, oh, Shredder's in hell. Oh, well, things like that where I didn't get to go all the way through. And the IDW collections put it chronologically. They fill those gaps. So you can have the IDW collection and it actually fills those gaps in for you as it goes through.
And
that's super nice.
Really pretty on the shelf.
And they look very pretty on a shelf. And one thing I will say is the quality and the writing is consistency. Because another thing you don't get a whole lot in books now are consistent creative teams without times off. Like Tom Waltz did the first 100 issues. And then Sophie Campbell has done the last 50. So between the 150, there's all that communication and 2 writers, period. Which is awesome as far as like keeping everything together and like there's no peaks and valleys as far as like the storytelling and how it's done. Like I like the consistency that here are the turtle stories that add a whole lot of new elements as you find out going through the books and stuff with new characters and all that. But like it's been consistently good and consistently written and very well planned out. And that's what I've noticed about it. I mean, I don't know if you guys along your journey, how do you feel?
Yeah, I do appreciate it. It is nice to see a run written entirely by 2 people, sort of. The one-shots and such, miniseries, those are...
but I'm saying, like, as far as like having a showrunner on a book is kind of uncommon at this point.
And hopefully that will be the case with Jason Aaron, because Jason Aaron's the type of writer who... He does write great individual issues, but
you need to give him some runway.
He's so good at writing a long form story. Like his Thor run is a prime example, but
he's old school in that way. And a lot of books now, like Al Ewing, like in the whole Avengers Inc. thing, I think we've talked about it before, where it's kind of disappointing where Homeboy can throw down, like give him more than 6 issues. Like it can't all be about sales all the time for these first, because if something kick-ass happens at 12 and your readership doubles because you let it have room to breathe. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know the ins and outs of that side of the business. But what I do know on this side, at least, is just because a book sold 3 this week doesn't mean it won't sell 12 next week if something incredible happens.
Yeah. And
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And for that specifically, Avengers Inc., Avengers.
It's an Ant-Man book, right?
Yeah, it's it's a Wasp book actually.
yeah.
So it's actually sort of a third in a trilogy for Al Ewing because he did Ant-Man then Wasp.
I think he's notorious. I think people even said it before. It's like Al Ewing doesn't give a fuck what book he's currently on. He's writing whatever he wants to write. Like somebody put like a diagram up where it shows like this character in this. Like it's funny. I mean, but I think that's cool. Like he's been able to do it. Like he can tie it all together.
Yeah,
So.
but my point there was that just the name Avengers was not enough to make that book sell a ton.
Sure.
You have to do more than, because there's plenty of Avengers subtitle books, and you have to have a good creative team to matter or to get people on board.
And Jason Aaron is one of those people for you.
Yeah, and his Avengers run is pretty controversial, but while it has its ups and downs, when it gets to like the last fourth or third of the book, you can really tell that this is what he's been building up to the whole time. And it pays off in such an awesome way for me. Mm-hmm. So I hope
getting that in a Turtles book would be,
because I think he would. I imagine he'll do something incredible with it, as long as given time. Well, he probably would in a small dose as well, because I've heard his action is really good, and it's just a small story. But
and I'm sure IDW broke out the checkbook.
They had to, based upon just the first 4 issues which have been solicited. The first 4. Not unlike Turtles. They used to have all those originally back in the day. They had the micro series where it would focus on one of the turtles and it had like a story to tell. They're kind of recreating that with this new relaunch because issue number 1 is a Raphael issue. And Joel Jones is doing all the art, which, I mean, Joel Jones on instruments and Jason Aaron on vocals was enough for me. Like, I was like, okay. And then you had who else is doing it? You've got is it Cliff Chang doing one?
I don't remember.
It was Burnham. I remember being just like, my apologies, is no disrespect to the rest of the artists. My brain shut off when I heard Joel Jones. Like, that is my dream. If you've listened to the podcast, you know that is my absolute favorite artist. Like, lights out. And the fact that she's doing the first issue, I'm like, okay, time to buy 1,000 of these. Like, I could not be more excited. But they're doing a different turtle per issue.
For the first 4.
For the first 4, and a different artist per issue for the first 4. Then it'll get something into a more regularly broadcast whatever. But they're also, along with it, like they're doing like a Turtles verse kind of. Like they're launching simultaneous books. They're doing, like you had mentioned before, a black, white, and green, which is the whole popular thing. Like Marvel has a whole lot of black, white, and reds, whether it be Darth Vader or Darth Maul or yada, yada, yada. Right. So if you haven't seen one of those books before, it is black and white, but the color that they describe is also present. So in the Turtles books, it's going to be whatever was green will be green and everything else will be in black and white. I just read something from Gavin, who's famously been drawing it. He actually wrote a story in one of the black, white, and green stories as well. So it's giving people like, it might be like it's his first shot maybe at writing.
Sure.
Which, if you've like listened to these people, like the people involved in these projects, if you've heard them talk before, like this is a dream come true for them because
they're land on turtles.
To land on turtles because it's something that they grew up with. They're around our age,
right? And
they had the same origin story with the turtles, but they're actually getting to work on it.
Yeah, so, Ben Bishop has said that a number of times from Maine. And then Night Watcher, and then I think the Saturday Morning Adventures are still continuing, and they're doing really fun kind of wacky things that are interesting there, where the turtles are going to be meeting other turtles from all these iterations. They're going to have like a little crossover into the Turtleverse issue. So I think that looks really fun. So our project is timed, from here to about October. So we kick off next week to about October. We do every other week release schedule, so to say. Might drop a few more in between here and there. But yeah, really excited to get
So
through
like
these.
an episode would be one of the IDW collections in order.
Yeah. And they're roughly a little over an hour or so.
Sure.
You know, they're a little bit longer. Maybe one day we'll split them up into 2 parts or something like that.
Sure.
But the format is generally that I run through kind of what happened in the book, that issue, and then we talk about it, what we liked, what we didn't like, little things we saw. Well, so far we're kind of pointing out things that either of us missed, which has been really fun.
Well, and that's what the whole point of stories and this kind of medium is like. The reason why podcasting lends itself well to this is like I never even bothered going like the same thing. Like I would never bother going to movies by myself because the second half of that experience is getting out of there. Your lights, your eyes readjusting, being like, man, that was fucking awesome. And just talking it out. Like, and the same thing goes for a good book.
Exactly.
And like on all these books. So like the podcast is fun if you get up there and you've separately done it and this is your chance to like hash it out.
And to that point, in this format, this can be evergreen.
Right.
Like, you're going to pick this up later. Maybe you just want to listen to this to catch up for the Jason Aaron run, and then eventually, 6 months from now, you're like, I'm going to start reading this, and maybe you'll read an issue and then listen to the podcast, see what we thought.
Sure. Yep.
I like that you will have this documented just out there.
Yeah.
And on a personal note, I'm pretty excited to have a few of these released for the 40th anniversary mini-con.
Sure.
That I'm headed to.
I forgot to bring that up too. Late April.
Yeah, I'm headed out to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which is where right around where I grew up, Connecticut and New Hampshire. And they are holding almost to the day, literally 1 week off of the release at that flea market. Jetpack Comics is Ralph DiBernardo is putting together a mini con of not only Kevin Eastman, but all the, Tom Waltz, all the other creators are coming together at this show. The invitation has been sent out to Peter Laird, who showed up briefly at Granite Con in New Hampshire last year. So he may or may not show up. Who knows?
So you obviously only got tickets for one day just so you would possibly miss him, right?
Exactly, yeah. So it's funny because he was encouraging people to only really get 1 day tickets because that should be enough. But if I'm going to fly all the way out there and just to find out that he only came up Friday night, like I would never forgive myself. So I'm excited to get out there, kind of push the show a little bit and see some interest and also bring some books and enjoy a turtle weekend.
Because at this point, you have a few number ones that you're looking to get signed.
I do, yeah. So I was just a quick aside. I mean, growing up, I didn't have a comic book shop.
Sure.
I vaguely remember that I had a Turtles comic, but I wasn't sure if I did, and because I never had a shop.
It could have been one of those Archie ones that was on a spinner rack.
It was
somewhere.
Exactly where it was.
Yes.
And it was the drugstore in town. I grew up in a very small town. And a couple years ago, my parents were going through all the art stuff because all the kids have left the house, and they found my very first Shredder's Archie #1 comic. It was ripped a little bit and taped, and I have that now. And so I have that #1. I have that fourth print. And then last year, I got married in France, and out of nowhere, I get a text message while not in a sober state. And Craig is like, "Hey, I found this book. You interested in this?" And I'm like, Yeah, I am. And it was a third printing #1. And so very thankful for a place like this, our friendship, of course. And it happened to be signed. So to get that signed by Laird would be amazing. But the collection has definitely overwhelmed the office. I might be going to IKEA to get some more storage for it. But yeah, that's been...
You're welcome, IKEA.
That's it. Yeah.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor.
So I'm going to close this out just kind of because I had looked it up just to be clear on the creative teams because I don't want to disrespect anybody. I mean, although I am looking forward to Joel Jones's. #1 is Raphael, Jason Aaron on vocals, Joel Jones on art. We've got Michelangelo, Jason Aaron on vocals, Raphael Albuquerque on art. Fantastic.
Missed opportunity to have him on Raphael, but
For sure. I mean, I don't know what's going on here. Amateurs. Maybe they just gave Joelle first choice, and she said Raphael, obviously.
Maybe he's a party dude.
Maybe he's a party dude.
Yeah.
maybe Joelle Jones is cool but rude.
It's possible.
Yeah.
That's what, maybe. Because I've written to her like every day, and she hasn't responded. I find that to be very rude.
Maybe that's it.
Issue 3 is Leonardo, Jason Aaron on vocals, Cliff Chang on art. And we've got number 4, Donatello, Jason Aaron on vocals, and Chris Burnham on art. And if you look around at this point anywhere, they have it like isolated out, and you can kind of see like the different stylistic differences on all these. I think ultimately what's going to happen is at like issue 5, you start a real arc, and you're going to have some consistency there in an artist and Jason Aaron on vocals. So we have that to look forward to, but also, like I said, we're going to be releasing. It's going to be the same schedule as we were used to. So we're recording this on Friday. You will hear this episode on Monday, and the Cowabunga Chronicles episode will also be the same week, but on Thursday. Correct, Chris?
Right. And
on
then
Thursdays.
Roughly, generally every other week, you'll see Cowabunga Chronicles in the same feed right along. Kind of tagged differently, titled differently, that kind of thing.
Sure.
How many? My question of the last few months. Well, first off, they've announced these 4 issues.
Yes.
And have been cagey about what's next. Like they have not really said what is happening next with them. But I am curious. What are the polls at? What are we thinking?
Oh,
we're trying to get those up. That's why we're really here. That's why we're really all doing this.
All right, everybody. Here, this has all been an act. We're going to be straight with you right now. This is all strictly advertising because Chris really wants the highest ratio possible. So you don't have to listen. He doesn't care if you listen.
I'm just a shill.
Just add it to the poll.
That's it.
That's what we're looking at here. No, I'll look it up now. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to reveal actual numbers, but I can tell you if there's additional interest.
Yeah.
Which I think there is, based purely upon Nolan and I kind of telling people, because what really, I hate it when they use it for evil or they use it as a game, but a renumber can do a whole lot for a book. Like X-Men just, announced their relaunch. Those numbers are crazy because people are like, I've been waiting for X-Men, but, can't completely catch up on Krakoa.
Right.
And with Turtles, I mean...
X-Men and Turtles come out the same day, which is going to be a crazy week.
It's like a Barbenheimer kind of thing. The other reason I bring it up, though, Craig, on a practical sense, as someone who I keep my lane, and these guys know this, but I am.
Yeah, you're not coming in and buying anything other than Turtles.
I really don't, and I mean Daredevil, I dabbled in because of the crossover and the connection there that you've talked about on past issues. But like in my brain, I'm like the way I'm a completionist, so to say, on TMNT, I can't get into anything else, so to say. And I just didn't really. I came in here. I had no clue what a pull list was. I had no clue what a difference between a trade and a trade hardcover and a graphic novel and all these things. I had no idea. I barely even understood ratios at that point. Right. And so on one of those things I didn't understand was how far in advance you really have to pull.
Yes.
Something and how important that really is, and what's final order cutoff. What is that? How does that make sense? And these kind of things. So yes, I would love the highest ratio we can possibly get, by all means. But at the same time, realistically, like if you're interested in this book, you got to pull it. You got to pull it early. Yes. Pull early, pull often, just like voting.
So now you're being a shill for me.
I'm trying. I'm trying. Support your local shop kind of thing.
Speaking of ratios, Poll, Black Widow, and Hawkeye by Stephanie Phillips.
Look at this guy.
Goodness gracious.
On a last little bit of self-promoting.
The answer is 5 times. We've got 5 times the amount for that number 1 than we do for the regular main line.
Amazing. Yeah. And on that note, I started an account called Too Much TMNT.
Yes, go ahead, punch that up on your talking about
Too Much TMNT on Instagram. It's kind of a light thing that I do. As I've traveled, I've been very fortunate to travel in the last few years. I will take pictures of shops that I've been in, and as I'm looking for, turtle hunting, as I call it, I will take pictures of the shop, talk about it, give them a little shop review, give them a little love. So, if you're traveling, you're going up to Michigan, you're going out to the Mountain West, things like that. I have little recommendations on there, highlighting my collection, and of course, highlighting this great shop.
Knowing full well that if you're going there after you've been there, don't bother looking for the turtles.
That it has at least been picked through. Yes. Sure. Yeah. And it's funny you say that because I have arrived at shops and these things the IDW single issues are getting picked through. They are getting harder to find. The Mirage books are getting harder to find. The prices are going up for sure. So it's definitely a time to be a collector by all means. But yeah, check that out. It's a fun thing. I post infrequently, trying to bump it up a little bit more. But yeah, it's a fun time.
And make sure you say it again and spell it for the so that people
that's
can hear.
Too Much TOO, Too Much TMNT on Instagram.
Cool. And I think with that, that'll do it for this week. Everybody take it easy, and we'll see you next week.
Cowabunga.